Webinars are an amazing tool to grow the reach of your business. Do you know the difference between a good one and a bad one? Odds are you don't. Let me explain. Good morning, everybody. Ruby and I are talking about webinars and events. And the question that I often get asked is a webinar a good idea? And the answer to that question is yes, it is a good idea. But there are good webinars and there are bad webinars. Bad webinars are less easy to spot than you might think, but sometimes they're pretty easy to spot. A webinar is not, let me say this again, webinar is not a demo. You do not want to use a webinar to introduce your products to your customers. To introduce your products to your customers. Do you want to do product webinars? Sure, nothing wrong with that. Those are for current customers. Those are for people that you know. Those are for people that work with you. Whatever it is that you do today, that could be a product, a service, whatever that turns into. Those are for current customers, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to build a repertoire of information, a video library of stuff that you do, that's cool. Nothing wrong with that. That is not what you want to use to introduce your business to customers. Okay, then what do we want to use to introduce our business to customers? Well, really we want to start with problems. So features and benefits are great when somebody actually cares. When they don't care, or they're not really sure if they care, we absolutely do not want to use features and benefits as a part of that process. We want to use problems. What problems do we need to solve? And that is platform agnostic. That is problem specific. Let's talk about the problems of the world. What do we have to deal with as a business, for our customers? What problems are out there? And how do those problems get defined? How do our customers see those problems? How do we push messaging around the solution to those problems? That, at some point, connecting dots will lead to us, but not right away. You want to think about this from your customer's perspective. You want them to see you as the harbinger of good information, not sales information. You'll get there, but for right now, for your purposes, if you're going to do a webinar, you want to make sure that it's really about them and the problems that they're trying to solve, and your hot take on the solution to those problems. So there's that. Second piece of that is, I don't care how many people show up. This is the difference, again, between a good and a bad webinar. A good webinar, you would think, is well attended. And my statement to you is, no. A good webinar is chock full of amazing nuggets of good information for those people that are going to watch it or be on it. The be on it part's the interesting part. I don't care if there's 2 people, 200 people, 2,000 people, they're all the same to me. Why? Because one, you got to start somewhere. You're not going to get 2,000 on your first webinar, so there's that. But 2, you got to make sure that you're using that webinar as an opportunity to build out further content that you can share across multiple channels, across multiple user types, across multiple buyer types, so that you can put that information in front of them with regularity, and you use the webinar as the conduit to that content. So, what's a good webinar? What's a bad webinar? A good webinar is full of good information. Not sales information, good information. We'll get to sales. We'll get there. Slow down. Think about your customer. Think about the problems to be solved. Give them that every week. Do it weekly. Don't do it once a quarter, once a year. Weekly. Why? Because it can become a quasi-podcast, for one. And for 2, it gives you an opportunity to get better at it. Build the muscle. Figure out what customers are responding to. Get an attendee list, build it. And so we're not just going to spam the attendee list. No. We're going to use it as a model to continue pushing out the good information. This is demand creation. We don't care about the sale in the next 10 days. We care about the sale in the next 10 months. And so this becomes the model. If you can do that, and you don't use attendance as the yardstick for success, you then have the opportunities, the at-bats, the things you can do differently. All right. Think about that. A, can you build the resources to model out what this looks like? So it takes time, effort, money, people, all of the above. So there's that. That's one. And then two, Ruby says, don't think short term, think long term. Use these webinars as the opportunity to really speak to customers and where they are, what they need, and how they need it. And you can make better decisions based upon that. This becomes how you want to go to market. All right, enough for today. Webinars, good idea. Don't get caught up in the short term. Have a great one, walking and talking with Ruby.